Hello, everybody. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is a special edition of the Connecticut Sports Talent Show where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And every episode is special because I get to talk to various players, coaches, and even broadcasters. A little bit different here is I have somebody who covers the Berkshire League. His show, The Rundown, he has an Instagram page and does a fantastic job. Cody Diz is who I'm speaking to right now. Cody, it's great to be able to have you on, man.
I really appreciate you reaching out to me, and this is going to be awesome. I can already feel the energy coming into this, so I'm ready to go. And thank you for shouting out my page. For those of you who don't know, the Rundown is really a startup project for me, and hopefully I can get more in depth about that later on. But basically, if you're a fan of any basketball for boys, go follow the Rundown. I've been posting about the girls recently. It's very fun for Berkshire League. So I'm just happy to be here, and let's go.
Now, before we actually get into the games, because tomorrow starts not just the Berkshire League boys basketball tournament, also the NVL on my side from my familiarity, but this is more important for the Berkshire League. Previously, yesterday, the Nanawa girls won the Berkshire League tournament over Gilbert. We'll get into that later on as well. I want to ask you first, how did this transpire? Because people ask me, how did your podcast, the CT Sports Talent Show, how did it come about? So I'm going to ask you, how did the Rundown come about?
Well, so I was a student at Northwest Regional in Winsted, and I wanted to do something that involves sports, kind of get my feet a little wet in the broadcasting door. And my first thought was, how do I provide good content and be able to, get myself out there? So I decided to make an Instagram for Northwestern sports. So originally it was Northwestern, the Rundown. And after a year, I decided to just do Berkshire League basketball because it really made things a lot easier for me covering just one sport and only at one time during the year. Made my edits a lot better, made my videos a lot better on YouTube. So it ended up just becoming something that I wouldn't have expected it to become today. The most followers I would have expected for the Instagram was 400 to 500. And now we're up to 1,600, really towards 1,700. And the community is really spread around and, grouped together for it. So it's just so fun to be able to control. And this is something that I wanted to do because I want to become an NFL and NBA commentator. So I want to, get towards that goal of being on the big stage. And you got to start off with the local leagues. And that's what I'm trying to do. And if I were to just stay in the local league, I mean, I'd be happy with it because I know I'd still be helping out a community.
What was some of the feedback when you first started? Because I know you said it started off as the Northwestern page and then it came about to be the Berkshire League. What was some of the feedback that you were getting to kind of propel you to keep doing at the time, which was producing valuable content?
I think the main thing was most of the feedback, it was mainly just being able to post about like one school's sports and how well they had been doing for some certain sports and some teams. When I made the transition over to just Berkshire League boys, it was tough because at first I didn't really know too much about the players in the league. So I had to do a lot of research to kind of like get back on track. But over the original time when I started doing the boys, I got a lot of good feedback about not only my edits, but my videos, my Instagram in general. And at the time when I switched over, I was at like 600 followers and it sparked up to 1,000 in less than 3 months. So it was kind of incredible to, see that production. And that kind of showed me that, I was really doing something good here. And it was very helpful to just hear the feedback that was very positive. And it's just special to me, like being able to do this.
Now, were you able to go to games and take video and, take pictures and such, or were you relying on other people to kind of send you that content?
So there were a lot of people who did send me pictures, and I was able to find, a couple websites that got me the pictures. So I was able to, use like the Republican American, Register Citizen, uh, Game Time CT. I believe I've used a couple of their photos in the past. And then a bunch of people who like doing photography and trying to get into like the editing type of thing through high school after that as like a career. I've gotten through a lot of people there. So just like kind of a lot of people around the community have really helped out. And honestly, I can't really give too much credit to my side, because if I didn't have all these people sending me photos or links to these photos or videos, I would not be here today on this podcast, I don't think.
Have you ever thought about having your own podcast and doing like the Berkshire League podcast, and maybe even trying to expand, obviously basketball during the basketball season, and then baseball? Because I know Berkshire League baseball is pretty good as well. I know Thomaston had a run back in the day when I was in high school. I know Northwestern is pretty good. They've had some players actually make it pretty well as far as in the college ranks, and even had a player drafted, if I remember, way back when. Have you ever thought about doing something like that?
So what I want to eventually do is, I do definitely want to do podcasts. I feel like it'd be very fun. And obviously, I mean, I'm on this one for a reason, because I knew I was going to have a lot of fun. But also because like the Berkshire League deserves it. And I think they just need more recognition. And I think as much as I can do, there's definitely got to be like something else that I can provide. So a podcast is definitely in my mindset. When it comes to baseball, if I'm being completely honest, I am not the best when it comes to baseball knowledge. And, it's very hard for me to follow up, because it's a game that, I can't really adjust to or follow because of all the stats that go across it, and, how slow paced it is. But I definitely want to like experiment more, maybe into that in the coming years. I'm definitely going to try eventually doing some kind of like football type of thing for the teams that like the Berkshire League would represent. So like GN, I'm pretty sure Nanawag has a team combined with like Watertown or something. So kind of just mix in a lot of different things and just gain the experience that I need. The podcast definitely, but baseball kind of on the fence for now, but eventually in the future I'll try.
Now, I want to go back to the basketball side for a second. Now, when you're producing this content, obviously, because I know you said that you want to be a broadcaster one day, and being a broadcaster, networking is huge. I mean, constant communication with coaches, former and current players, ex-players from 10, 15 years ago, whatever the case may be. Are you making those connections? Because just in the few coaches that I've been able to talk to, from the Terryville side, obviously Coach Fitzpatrick from Nanawag, and the Thompson coach as well, whose name is escaping me. I've only talked to a couple, and they're pretty cool guys. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, I've been in touch with honestly a lot of the BL coaches. I think the only two coaches I really haven't been too in touch with are Litchfield Cowboys coach Dan Gashinsky and Hoosie coach Kurt Johnson. But throughout the rest of the Berkshire League, it's really been nice to be able to have connections with all the current coaches, like Coach Bunnell for Thomaston, Coach Fowler, Coach Hunt, two of the greatest coaches in BL history, I'd say. Coach Fitzpatrick, who just came here this season, but he's been very supportive of me, and Nanawag has been very supportive of everything. Former players, I've been in touch in the past, I'd say, with guys more recent, but definitely some big names like John Stevens I was in touch with not long ago. Rob Skinner I actually got in touch with the other day because I got a quote from him for the Gilbert girls Berkshire League championship game. I'm always in touch with Zach Penn, who dominated for Northwestern a couple years ago, Garrett Sadazan from Wamogo, the trio from Terryville, Shea Tracy, Tyler Trio, Jake Johnson. So I'm definitely trying to reach out and gain those connections. And as much as I can, that's going to lead me very far, hopefully, and just give me more of a platform to kind of build myself on.
And speaking of platforms, I know that what is going to, I think, help you a lot is the fact that you have the Berkshire League tournament for the boys, and that starts tomorrow. And that's half the reason why I have you on here, because I want to preview that and kind of go over, because again, I feel like the Berkshire League does not get a lot of, I don't know if respect, love, understanding. You can combine all three if you want. But that's why, again, I think this is a perfect time to be able to have this. Now, obviously, I don't know all the teams, hence why I have you here to kind of help. I know three of them. Obviously, Terryville was the top one. They were the best team. They only lost one game on the season, and that was the SMSA, who, mind you, they could very well see in the Division 5 playoffs. But again, we'll get into that later. Nanawag, just again, maybe I'm biased because I've seen them the most. They're 10-10, but they've lost like 3 or 4 games. They lost against what was it, Chapag on a behind the back, like didn't even look at the basket. Terryville, they played them into overtime and just lost. They've lost some close games. I think the Berkshire League, not saying there's going to be an upset, but there's a lot of potential to be some very, very intriguing and fun games to watch.
The big thing with the Berkshire League is, from my perspective, over the last few years, anyone can win games. I've seen. I mean, I just saw Housatonic beat Gilbert like a week or two ago, and Huzi hadn't won since 2020 against Wolcott Tech, which was like at the end of their season. So it was kind of crazy for that. But like, that's exactly what I mean. Anyone could beat anyone. Thomaston has had so many close games this year where they've lost to Wamogo, who's the 2 seed. And Wamogo, they've had a bunch of buzzer beaters for wins this year. And that's partly why they're the 2 seed. Northwestern's had a lot of close games that either they haven't been able to close out or they barely pull away. Same thing with Nottawag, who they were dealing with a couple injuries, but even so, they were doing a great job just staying intact and being able to, keep a middle seed in the tournament. Litchfield, I mean, they lost Daniel Dyke, so like it's tough for them to, bounce back from that, but they've done a good job, and that's why they're the 4 seed now. And Chapag, losing Owen Hibbert and Mike Parachi last year was very big, but this year they've been pretty solid considering they're losing one of the best players that we've seen in recent memory for the Berkshire League. But everyone in the tournament can win, I believe. Gilbert is a young team that nobody respects too much. So I think they are going to be a sleeper somehow. And it's really about, everything that kind of plays throughout all 4 quarters. You got to play hard. You got to play to win.
Is there a matchup in particular that you're going to be watching and kind of seeing, like, okay, I'll put it to you this way. Is there a matchup that there could be an upset, like an upset alert? Is there any matchup like that here?
100%. I'm going, if I were to be a betting man, I would say Chapag has a very good chance to upset Northwestern tomorrow. And that's because Chapag, they had 1 game to win to get to the state tournament because they were 7-12. If they won 1 more, 8 wins gets you in the tournament. It was their senior night at their place, and Northwestern came in and beat them by 5. And now they play 2 days later. So now it's going to be Chapag's out for revenge, and they're going to play as hard as possible. And that's why I could see them beating Northwestern. Also, Northwestern occasionally has this issue where they aren't really able to rebound consistently, and they also haven't been able to find their shooters consistently enough this year. So I think it's going to be a tough test for both teams, but I could very well see Chapag upsetting Northwest. And I hate to say that because I graduated from Northwestern, so it's big for me to, usually give them the confidence boost, but being professional, I think Chapag has a very good chance to win that game.
Now, obviously, I think a lot of people are going to look at Terryville being the cream of the crop because of what they've had. Coach Fowler's done a fantastic job. I saw Dow play, and I think it was one of his bad games because he scored less than 20. I know in every other game he scored like 40, 50. I mean, I know he just eclipsed 1,000 points not too long ago, and congratulations to him. But I think that, when I think of the tournament, and I mentioned this too when I do the NVL tournament, typically, yes, the stars kind of come about and they get their points more often than not. But typically in the games that I've seen, it's been I don't want to say the no name, but it's the players that typically do not get mentioned that kind of come up big. So the question I have for you is there a player on a particular team that nobody ever talks about or has even been spoken about that much that could potentially have a coming out in the Berkshire League tournament?
That is a very good question. Honestly, there's a couple from multiple teams. So I would say honestly, going down by the seeds, Terryville, Jake Rinkovich doesn't get talked about enough. And
Mhm.
Charlie Rogers as a defender, he's done so well, and he's a good 3-and-D guy. He doesn't get talked about enough. Wamogo, they have Nolan Totoro and Carter Nordland. Totoro's a very good shooter, and he does well in the paint when he needs to. Nordland is an incredible defender. Honestly, one of the best guard defenders in the league, I'd say, because his intensity is there, and he's just such a good player and fundamental. For Northwestern, I can't really think of anyone besides Jake Janko. I mean, he's had occasional like good scoring games. It's just someone's always been above him, or someone's had an all-around better game, which is why I haven't really mentioned him too much. Litchfield, AJ Quesnell, he's been very good recently, and he's really been the scoring machine since Daniel Dyke went out. When Tommy Gostowski really needs someone, he's very good for a go-to. So Quesnell's definitely someone to watch out for. Nanawag, it's tough, but I think Ben Conti, who was out for over half the year this year, he's got something to prove. So in this tournament, he's going to come out firing, and that could either cost them because he hasn't played for so long, or he can heat up and bring them very far in this tournament. Chapag, I would say the Pacific brothers, Logan and Liam. Liam is a sophomore, Logan's a senior. They both do very well scoring the ball, and I think it really comes down to if they're going to be consistent or not throughout this tournament, if they're going to be on fire, because there's also been some games where they have shot poorly, but that's just the shooter's touch. Thomaston, I would say it comes down to, because they're such a young team, it really comes down to Vince Russman, who's a freshman, who's like 6'4". He's really been like the big name there besides Mike Genovese this year. They both provide for that team. Even though they have only 4 wins, they got a good duo there for the future. Even though Genovese is graduating, Russman has somebody that is a good mentor. And then Gilbert, their team, I mean, there's a lot of people on that team that don't really get recognized that much. But I got to say, that team is going to be good in a couple years. But for now, I'd say Grayson Ursoni, Nolan Adams, and even John Devaney, who just went to Gilbert halfway through the season. I think that's going to be interesting for those 3 to be able to work out. And I'm confident that Gilbert could at least put up a good fight against Terryville, even if it's the 1 versus the 8.
If you had to predict what the final could be, what 2 teams do you think end up being able to survive to get to the championship?
I got to go with the 2 top teams right now, the Kangaroos and the Warriors. I mean, Wamogo is coached by Greg Hunt, and he does an incredible job getting these guys ready for the tournament every year. And it's proven over the last decade, because they had 4 BL tourney championships in a row. And then Terryville came in last year and won it. And that Terryville, they still have a talented team. And from what I've seen this year, nobody has been able to stop Dominic Dow. So that's why I kind of am believing in this Terryville team. But they're also deep. Like, if Dominic Dow's not scoring, he could pass it off to Rinkovich, Ryan O'Donnell, Charlie Rogers, Trevor Ferguson. They have such a deep roster, and Coach Fowler is a very good coach. He's very fundamental, knows what it takes to win big games. I mean, he's a former BL tourney champion for a reason. I think this is going to be one heck of a matchup if that's the final. And that's what I was predicting on my video actually a week ago of who was going to go that far in the tournament.
Now, real quick on Hunt, I don't know. I know you said baseball is not your forte. He's the former manager of, at the time, was the Torrington Twisters. One of his players was Steven Strasburg, who, as you know, won a World Series with the Nationals. He was a top pick with the Nationals. He went to San Diego State. Now, Strasburg, when he pitched for the Twisters, was about 5. I don't want to say he was 5'11", but he was a smaller player, but he was big. He was fat. And with the help of Hunt and others, kind of unlocked him. He started to put himself into shape. He started to grow into that body. And then obviously he was a first overall pick. We saw what he's done with the Nationals. And then another thing too on Dow, you said no one's been able to shut him down. Now that is true, but I will say Nanawag's Chung, forgetting his first, I think it's Dylan Chung. He was able to at least contain him. And there was a point where Dow did not score for a good length of time. So not to say that there aren't other great defenders in the Berkshire League. I'm just going off of what I've seen. But I think Chung, if there is to be that matchup again, and I don't know if it's possible, maybe it is, maybe it isn't until the championship, I think I'd love to see that Chung and Dow matchup again because I think Chung is a very underrated defender. And I mentioned this in the broadcast both times that if he was in the NVL, I think he could shut down some of the very talented, if not shut down, at least contend with the Essianic Pumas of Naugatuck. And I can go on and on and on with other players. We talk about Elijah Parker from Holy Cross as well. Love to see those matchups if Chung was in the NVL.
Yeah, Dylan Chung, honestly, he's interesting because he originally wasn't even playing basketball starting his freshman year. He went to go play football actually at a different school, then transferred to Nonawag for his sophomore year. And his mom, she actually was just telling me this the other day or yesterday when I saw her in person. She was saying that she wanted him to pursue basketball and he wanted it as well. And for how far he's come, it's incredible. Like he's definitely a very good defender. He's got a good shot to him when he can get going. The mid-range especially, he's a very good mid-range scorer. Really does well in the paint, but he does everything well. And I think he's the complete player as a senior. And he's someone that, he's another sleeper in this tournament that I didn't mention because a lot of people, they looked at him as the top scorer, but they're going to need to figure something out on the defensive side for him because he's one of the better defenders in the Berkshire League. If there was an all defensive team for Berkshire League, which I wish there was, it'd be awesome to see. I would love to see Dylan Chung on that list because he really provides for this team. He's really the heart and soul right now.
Now, real quick, and it's great to be able to have you on, man. I know you said you wanted to mention something about a young man who's dealing with a serious illness.
Yeah, so there's this kid from Wamoga Regional High School. His name is Daniel Burr. He actually already is dealing with Down syndrome for his entire life. He's kind of been dealing with that, but now he's also going through leukemia, and that is something major, something that it's so hard to think about because from everyone that I've talked to from the Mogo community, they've just mentioned such great things about him. He's such a nice kid. He's always bright. He's always fun to be around. So really what I want to mention to everyone watching is to go and donate to the GoFundMe that is in my Instagram. There's a link in my Instagram bio. If you can please press that to the GoFundMe and be able to donate. I'm also going to be posting it occasionally on my story to be able to get more people to kind of see that it's a big issue. And I really want the community to come together even more than it already has. They've already raised like $11,000 toward him, it was a $10,000 goal. So it's definitely incredible to see people already reaching out, but Daniel Burr definitely could need a lot more. And I hope the community reaches out. And something that a lot of people have been putting is Daniel Strong. I believe this kid is definitely Daniel Strong material, and we just hope that he gets through it, all the recovery and the treatment very well, and that the community helps him out as much as they can.
It's great what you're doing, not just for the league, but for the communities and such. And, I really do commend that. And, keep doing what you're doing. I was following the rundown before I reached out to you and was asking you about a score of one of the games that I was not able to attend, but it was great to be able to make this connection with you, man. And I hope, stay in touch and be able to keep me up to date on what's going on in the Berkshire League.
Oh, 100%. And if you guys at Game Time CT, if you guys ever need anything, you know where to find the Berkshire League person, I guess. But for those of you who are tuning off, please follow the rundown. Would really appreciate it. Let's keep the channel growing and let's keep the community bigger and better. So thank you for so much, Chris, for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to spread the word about your podcast 100% on the rundown and give you a lot of respect because you are one incredible dude.
I appreciate it, man. I'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent, and I'm on a journey to find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.